começar já. Muito boa tarde. É um grande prazer tê-los todos aqui, sala cheia, nesse fim de semestre tão difícil de termos tempo para assistir uma palestra, para participar de um evento. E temos a honra de ter hoje aqui a professora Umarani Pappuswamy, vice-diretora do Central Institute of Indian Languages, uma instituição original da Índia, que tem convênio com todas as universidades e que é responsável pela política linguística central do Estado indiano, cuida de todos os aspectos linguísticos das muitas línguas da Índia. É uma palestra que é possível no âmbito da nossa Cátedra Unesco em Políticas Linguísticas para o Multilinguismo, que tem a sua sede na UFSC e nesse momento congrega 26 universidades em 14 países diferentes, que pesquisam e ensinam em 11 línguas diferentes. E que tem por objetivo trazer para a pesquisa universitária a agenda do multilinguismo da Unesco, nesse momento, por exemplo, a Década Internacional das Línguas Indígenas, o Atlas Unesco das Línguas do Mundo, que está sendo feito sobre a base do Atlas das Línguas em Perigo, e outras agendas que a Unesco desenvolve no campo das línguas. Essa palestra só foi possível por causa da professora Andréa Guerini e do programa de pós-graduação em Estudos da Tradução, que financiaram o trecho internacional da viagem da professora Umarani. E no âmbito da cátedra são várias entidades brasileiras, 3 parceiros da UFSC tiveram então a presença da professora Umarani. Ela veio para o Congresso Mundial de Línguas de Herança, coordenado pela nossa colega Maria Luísa Ortiz, na UNB. Ficou uma semana lá com os colegas de Brasília, depois voou para a UniOeste de Foz do Iguaçu, com a professora Isis Ribeiro Berger, depois foi para a Federal Fluminense, com a professora Mônica Saavedra, e nos dá então o privilégio de ter a última semana antes do seu retorno para a Índia. A presença da professora Umarani na cátedra está associada ao primeiro evento que a cátedra promoveu, que foi a primeira Conferência Internacional sobre Línguas Indígenas da Índia, que ocorreu em fevereiro de 2019, em Hyderabad. O CIL foi cofinanciador e coorganizador e participou presencialmente dessa conferência no Dia Mundial das Línguas Maternas, que é o 21 de fevereiro de 2019. Desde lá, então, tem atuado e participado e trazido contribuições no âmbito do trabalho que nós realizamos. Então, eu gostaria, em primeiro lugar, de chamar a professora Andréa para algumas palavras sobre essa oportunidade, representando a PGET. Em seguida, eu vou passar a palavra para a professora Umarani. Depois, eu vou ler o currículo da professora Umarani e daí damos início à conferência. Professora Andréa.
Obrigada, Gilvan. Bom, em primeiro lugar, eu gostaria de agradecer ao Gilvan por ter aberto esta possibilidade de trazer a professora Umarani aqui para a UFSC, né? Dentro desse projeto da Cátedra Unesco de Multilinguismo, né? E é um prazer tê-la aqui conosco. Espero que seja a primeira de muitas vezes e que possamos estreitar a colaboração entre a Índia e o Brasil, em geral, e Florianópolis e a sua cidade, que é Mysore, na Índia, né? Com o Instituto Central de Línguas Indígenas, que você coordena, né? Então, é uma grande honra para nós tê-la aqui. Eu agradeço então ao Gilvan e também queria agradecer a pós-graduação em Linguística, porque essa é uma parceria com a pós-graduação em Linguística, e só por causa dessa parceria e por termos ainda dinheiro, financiamento, é que a gente pode trazê-la, né? E é também uma política da pós-graduação em Estudos da Tradução, trazer pessoas de outros continentes, de outros países, isso enriquece a nossa cultura. Então vai ser um prazer enorme ouvi-la hoje. E, de fato, espero que essa sua presença física aqui, nós já nos conhecíamos virtualmente, né? Mas o virtual é sempre tão é meio desumano às vezes, né? É muito melhor, mais afetivo, mais enriquecedor, né? Contar com a presença. Claro que o remoto nos ajuda a diminuir distâncias, né? Mas eu posso dizer hoje que é um grande prazer tê-la aqui pessoalmente, presencialmente, e ver a plateia aqui. Também agradeço a presença de todos. Estamos ainda um pouco receosos para retomar o presencial, mas acho que é muito importante ter essa etapa aqui. Então, obrigada, agradeço também a presença de todos e, em especial, ao Gilvan, que nos colocou em contato. Thank you.
Eu queria, então, só antes de passar a palavra para uma, agradecer. Eu estava esperando o professor Walter, o professor Daniel, mas então a professora Adair e a professora Silvia, que representam a pós-graduação em Linguística, estender esses agradecimentos à pós-graduação em Linguística, que também contribuiu com essa presença aqui. Professora Umarani.
So first of all, boa tarde, vanakkam, namaste. It's indeed a great honor and privilege to be here at Pappuswamy. I really thank Professor Andrea Guerini, yes, Professor Gilman Mueller de Oliveira, and my dear colleagues for sparing your valuable time to be with us. You chose to be with us today, this evening. So that's indeed a great honor to translation studies and linguistics more than anything else. Thank you so much. I'm very happy that this is my first visit to the most beautiful part of Brazil. This island is very beautiful. I'm very much impressed with the nature and the landscape. I take this opportunity to honor the people who have invited me. So with everybody's permission, I would like to pay my respect and honor first to Professor Andrea. So one moment, maybe you should come here because there are people in the YouTube. So here, if you don't mind, something this small. This is from Mysore. Just wanted to honor. I never knew that she'll be wearing blue, so it matches with yours. Thank you. This is our way of thanking you and paying respect to you. So thank you. So thank you very much. That's very important. I also would like to honor my host, Professor Yes. Oh. Maybe one picture with the dog. Oh, sorry. Thank you both of you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so with these few words, let's begin the academic part now.
I just read your CV and then we begin. Okay?
Oh, okay. There's some formalities.
A little bit more information on your participation. Bom, então, como eu dizia, a professora Umarani é a vice-diretora do Instituto Central de Línguas Indianas, que fica na cidade de Mysuru, que é no estado de Karnataka, no sul da Índia. O sul da Índia, como vocês sabem, é a região onde se falam as línguas dravídicas ou dravidianas, que não são línguas indo-europeias, nesse caso, e fez uma graduação em estatística, o mestrado em linguística, com especialização em linguística computacional, na Bharatiya University de Coimbatore, que também é nessa região de Tamil Nadu, de onde ela é, e fez o doutorado em linguística da própria Universidade de Mysuru. Teve um pós-doutorado na Universidade de Antuérpia e depois foi colaboradora, professora do Learning Research and Development Center da Universidade de Pittsburgh, nos Estados Unidos, por alguns anos. Quando retornou para a Índia, foi trabalhar numa das regiões mais interessantes da Índia, que é aquele nordeste, aquela parte da Índia bastante destacada do corpo do país, que faz fronteira com a Tailândia e a Birmânia ou Mianmar, onde se falam exatamente línguas de outras famílias. A Universidade de Northeast Hill University, em Shillong, onde ela trabalhou por 8 anos, antes de vir trabalhar, então, no Instituto de Línguas Indianas. Lá ela trabalhou no Center of Language Documentation e no chamado Scheme for Protection and Preservation of Endangered Languages. Então tem uma vasta experiência com trabalhos de campo, desenvolvimento de questionários para análise sociolinguística, etc. Com interesses em documentação linguística, linguística de campo, tipologia, semântica, morfologia, lexicografia, multilinguismo, linguística computacional e inteligência artificial para a educação. Nesse recorrido que ela fez aqui pelo Brasil, ela fez palestras sobre diversos assuntos envolvendo linguística e educação, e também deu um minicurso sobre a elaboração de dicionários, que é uma das áreas em que ela tem atuado para línguas indígenas. Foi visitante em vários países, desenvolveu muita atividade editorial, né, através da Sociedade Linguística da Índia. Ela é responsável pelo setor de editoração do CIL também, então, frequentemente, até agora, a nossa cátedra vai organizar 2 livros conjuntos da cátedra, um sobre línguas pluricêntricas e outro sobre eixos de multilinguismo. Estamos tratando exatamente sobre isso. Eu queria ressaltar que na ida dela a Brasília, ela foi chamada para visitar o embaixador indiano. O embaixador indiano está recém-chegando de ser embaixador dos BRICS e assume as relações bilaterais com o Brasil. Propôs a ela coordenar um programa de intercâmbio para levar 6 acadêmicos brasileiros para a Índia até meados do ano que vem, para nós começarmos um projeto mais robusto de parcerias, que eu espero essa palestra possa, então, inaugurar. Tá? Thank you very much. You know everything I said.
Thank you so much, Milton. Obrigada, because I don't know whether I deserve such a long introduction, but I'm very happy to be part of the UNESCO chair on language policies for multilingualism, for which Professor Jilwan Mueller is the general coordinator, and it's not easy to have so many of us associated. I'm very happy to represent Central Institute of Indian Languages in the chair. And also, because of the chair, we knew so many people across the globe, which brings people from different nations, multilingual, pluricultural, from various sects of life together to do some academics and see what we can do together to make academics better, especially when it comes to language policies and multilingualism, because we are no longer living in one nation, right? Because we share a lot of things. Nowadays, no man is an island, so no country is an island, though I'm saying that in an island. So that way I feel like we have so much in common. So I thank you all once again, and I thank the department, Professor Andrea, Professor Jilwan, for inviting me here and share my ideas and what we do in India with regard to one of the most important disciplines, translation studies. I chose to use the title Translation Studies and Linguistics because we are translating languages, and linguistics is the study of scientific study of languages, right? So that is why, what's the connection between these two? And especially when it comes to multilingual countries. Though I am going to speak a lot about things happening in India, I believe that can be applied to Brazil as well. So I request you to stop me anytime you want to, wherever you have questions, and I believe at certain intervals, Jilwan will do the interpretation as well, right? If necessary. Not necessary, then fine. I mean, I do not know, so. Okay, all right. But that means good for me because the flow of thoughts will be continuous. So that's nice, but I can be interrupted with your questions because a monologue can be boring. A dialogue is always interesting. So please feel free. So here are the most important logos you can see on the first screen, because you see that the UNESCO logo, all of you know, and the chair's logo. And here is my national emblem, the 4 lions. You see only 3. The third one is facing backwards. That is the national emblem of India, because I work for Government of India. And the next one is 50 CIL. We completed 50 years in 2019, just before the pandemic. Now it's 54th birthday we celebrated on July 17th, just last week. So, and my name, of course, you can call me as Uma. It's easy for you. In today's talk, I would like to introduce you the relationship, the interrelationship between translation studies and linguistics. And also, because I wanted to talk about this situation in India, I will provide an outline about multilingual, pluricultural India, the languages, the policies of the country with regard to languages, and then see what we do in linguistics basically in India. That will be a brief outline, but my major focus is going to be on translation studies and the role of linguistics in it. Here we will look into various types of translation, because that's why we even asked, this academic translation is one, that is interpretation. That's what I asked, whether we need it. In this particular group, we don't need it, but sometimes we do need it. And you know very well, sometimes things get lost in translation, because the speaker's intention may be different. Interpreter or the translator, only if he or she is very proficient and has the same wavelength, you will be able to do justice. It's not possible to do 100% perfection in such roles, but then we should get the essence of communication, what is being communicated. So what's happening in literary translation, knowledge translation, media translation, scientific translation, legal translation, which is very important. Anything which deals with justice, health, all these emergency phone calls. Suppose if you wrongly translate or interpret something, it's going to be very dangerous. So what's happening, what are we doing, and how much we need to do? That's one thing I would like to tell. And also the current strategies, trends, tools, techniques used for translation within India, between Indian languages or among Indian languages or across Indian languages, or also from Indian language, say to Portuguese or Spanish or German. There are some German teachers or Italian. So here we have multilingual teaching faculty, and perhaps the students are also there with such background. There's someone who knows and is willing to work in Indonesia. So there are many such situations where we need to do some cross-language translations that belong to different nations and different language families also. We'll talk about that. And also, since we are dealing with this translation, it's going to have its own problems. So what are the issues? When you have an issue, every problem has a solution, but may not be the perfect solution, but it has a solution. So what kind of solutions are available? What are the strategies one can use to do fair translation, the so-called fair translation? If that was not possible, people would not have translated Bible or Bhagavad Gita or Quran into many world languages. And it's accepted by everyone. So that means they have done a great job. Otherwise, one would not have been able to do it even when technology was not developed. So now with all the gadgets in our hands, in pockets, we should be able to do a better job. So how to do it? That's something we have to see. And how to cross the so-called barriers, cultural barriers, language barriers. That's why trying to understand what people say, keeping not just your eyes open to see people, but when it comes to language, keep your ears open. The more we hear, the more we try to understand and then see how we can get the best out of it, especially in multilingual nations. This is the goal. And let me start with a colorful map of India. Because this is a new map. That's why I wanted to share it with you. During the pandemic, in addition to all other things what India has been doing, we also changed some boundaries, and some states have been converted into union territories. So here is the new, this was the area of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. So I think Kashmir everybody knows, because we have problem with the border between Pakistan and India. And now Jammu and Kashmir, I'm not going into the political reasons for doing it or whatever reasons, but this is the map where we have now. This is divided into J&K, Jammu and Kashmir, and Ladakh is here. In the old maps you won't find this. If you can Google afterwards, if you're curious, you can see that. So now then also a few years back, this was also divided. This whole area was Andhra Pradesh. We have Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. So one state was divided. One state speaking same language got divided into two. So that's here. So here we have two states, and then here it became union territories. Thus we have 28 states and 8 union territories now.
Wow.
So of course, as you know, India is very big with 1 billion plus people there speaking so many languages, and we cannot, even if I want to speak to someone from Tamil Nadu to say somewhere here in Maharashtra, I don't know their language, neither do they know my language, so we have to use English, because English is the lingua franca in India, not Hindi, because up to this region, in Tamil Nadu, Hindi is not taught in schools. So I belong to Tamil Nadu. I picked up a little Hindi on my own, but common people would not know it. So mostly Tamil Nadu, whether it is an ordinary person or a politician, they have to use English to communicate with other state people. So English is the lingua franca everywhere. But here, up to this point, up to Maharashtra, all these people, except this so-called left hand of India, the left hand of India is the northeast India, which they don't know much Hindi, all others can speak Hindi. So here, the situation here is, you can see the international borders are there, geopolitically important place here, because you have Myanmar, that is the old name is Burma, you have Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, then we have a big giant, China. So you have quite a bit of international borders there, and it's very difficult. So the region is tiny here, but they speak a lot of languages, more than 220 languages just in this region, which are all indigenous. So this is about India, the map. Here's a small extract from the map of India from Google, where I just wanted to show you here Mysore. This is where I work now. This is where my institute is. And here it's closer to Mangalore. This is the state of Karnataka. Capital is Bengaluru here. Here is Goa. I think most of you at least know that Portuguese were there, and if you visit there, I myself have never been there. I want to go after seeing some places here. Now I'm curious. So I've never been there. Though I've visited so many, I've come all the way here to to Brazil, but never went to Goa, which is nearer. So I have to go there. So this is the Goa, where this again coastal, as you know. So these people who were here, the Portuguese, interesting, they even wrote, I wouldn't use the word translated, they wrote Tamil grammar in Portuguese. Writing is different from translating. If you are proficient in two languages, you can write in another language. So translation is called as rewriting. Somebody has written and you are rewriting. So there is a difference. But the Portuguese then, writers, they wrote Tamil grammar in Portuguese. That was very old grammar. So that's there. Here's a beautiful picture for you. Just interested in promoting some so that you come to Mysore. This is the city of palaces. This is the Maharaja Palace. Mysore was a princely state because the palace this is a recent picture. The palace is well maintained and Jilwan was there in this palace, right? So you are here. So this is the people who ruled Mysore, that they are Vadayars. They are not from Karnataka. The dynasty was different. Okay. So nice. I'm not going into this. We will see. But you are free to visit us. I'll show you this. And here's my institute, Central Institute of Indian Languages. It's not a palace, but it's a nice place for. I just took the front building because it's not possible to show the complete landscape. So here's a small video of the institute, and I just thought it's important for you to know. It takes 5 minutes, so please bear with me for that. And volume will come, right? No volume? This is the campus, you can see. Sorry for that. Anyway, till he does that, so I will also tell. So here this institute is like now 54 years old. One of the institutions that works on languages, and it's a support from the beginning because it's important they hear it, right? Whatever I'm going to say, the video will show you in 5 minutes. I may take more time sometimes. So that is there. Volume is there or what?
Não have áudio.
Huh?
Não have. Não, a caixinha de som não está funcionando.
No, but we played it in FOSS, we played it in Rio.
Tá ligado no VGA, não tem áudio.
Department of Higher Education,
We played it everywhere, right?
Maybe you can summarize.
Government of India.
No, but is the volume working here?
Has always been the hallmark feature.
No, I think because what I sent you in your video, the one, you can play it and see it works. Because I played it in FOSS. Okay, anyway, so I will just summarize because I think we are not getting the volume. Is it because of
Concerning
this?
languages,
It's not working.
Not working.
Eu tenho no meu computador.
All right. So
Diversity
anyway,
of languages has also contributed to India's richness in history and culture. The diversity of a nation should be sustained by
yes,
all
the
means.
director
By
that
this, the
time.
Government of India matters pertaining to the language policy, planning, and issues related to the Indian languages.
The Institute has been coordinating the development of Indian languages through scientific studies, documentation, digitization, teaching, testing and evaluation, translation, and by various other ways. The Institute has been working on the creation of teaching learning materials besides creation of resources and tools for various languages. CIIL has 7 satellite centers called Regional Language Centers that are located at Bhubaneswar, Lucknow, Guwahati, Patiala, Mysuru, Pune and Solan. These centers offer courses in 20 of the scheduled languages to non-native speakers and thereby contribute to national integrity through languages. The institute also offers online courses in Bangla, Tamil, Kannada, and Telugu. As a national institution for advanced research on languages, linguistics, and literature, CIIL hosts several major projects and schemes of the Ministry of Human Resource Development and other institutions. In an effort to develop manpower and skills of language speakers, the institute regularly organizes workshops, training programs, seminars, conferences, symposiums, and similar academic events which are attended by students, researchers, faculty, members, and working professionals from all corners of the country and abroad. CIIL houses a rich and fully automated library. It currently has more than 2 lakh books and hundreds of latest journals and periodicals dedicated to the discipline of language, linguistics, and literature. Having its own printing press and publication house, CIIL helps authors, researchers, and teachers working on any aspect of Indian languages to publish their quality works for the benefit of all stakeholders involved. Under Grants in Aid scheme, CIIL provides financial assistance to individual authors, voluntary organizations, societies, and charitable trusts which are involved in the promotion of Indian languages. CIIL has an MOU with Mahatma Gandhi Institute, Mauritius. The institute has assisted the Mahatma Gandhi Institute, Mauritius, in establishing a language resource center for the development of teaching and training materials relevant to second language. The Ministry of HRD hosts several major projects and schemes through CIIL to cater to academic, industrial, and research needs of the country in the discipline of language, linguistics, and literature. Some of these projects are as follows: National Testing Service, India; Linguistic Data Consortium for Indian Languages; National Translation Mission; Scheme for Protection and Preservation of Endangered Languages; Pappuswamy Project. Under Bhasha Mandakini project, CIIL has produced more than 650 video documentaries dedicated to the promotion of Indian language and culture. ETU also conducts online language learning courses for Tamil, Kannada, Bengali, and Manipuri. Under the Center for Classical Languages, CIIL monitors progress and development of Center of Excellence for Studies in Classical Kannada, Center of Excellence for Studies in Telugu, Center of Excellence for Studies in Odia, Center of Excellence for Studies in Malayalam. In 5 decades of its existence, the Central Institute of Indian Languages has relentlessly worked for the promotion of all Indian languages. The Institute has carried out works on major and minor, scheduled and non-scheduled, written and unwritten languages. The Institute has advised the government towards the formulation of favorable policies and also collaborated with institutions, community members, and stakeholders for the research, development, and promotion of languages.
I will also talk about it in my talk. And here's one of your faculty members who was there at Central Institute of Indian Languages. I found this picture.
Casualmente eu botei a mesma roupa sem querer.
What's that?
And for casualty, I have the same clothes without having.
Oh my God, I didn't realize that. Okay. Anyway. Yeah. So there was a poster, he's standing by the poster where he was invited to deliver a talk at our Golden Jubilee celebrations of the Institute. So that was there. Thank you very much for coming there. And of course, when he was there, we talked about a lot of work on pluricentricity and other things, which are, anyway, coming back to my slides here. As most of you know, I've been telling that it's not just multilingual, multicultural, we are also multi-religious because we have so many religions. It's a secular nation where we have people from different religions that coexist in the country. When during the British times, Lord Grierson did a huge survey called Linguistics Survey of India. Several volumes were brought out. At that time, he identified 179 languages, 544 dialects in his survey, which was carried out between 1896 to 1927. But after India became free in 1947, we started doing census of India, which is the authentic record of keeping the numbers. So that way, like we started in 1951, every 10 years we do it. We were supposed to do it in 2021 due to pandemic. It's not yet done. So this is the first. I think this is the first time we have missed doing the census at the right moment, 2021. All right. So of course, it's one of the world's largest democracies with international borders, one of the major global hotspots of linguistic diversity. It is the fourth most linguistically diverse nation with 453 living languages. The number could be even more. I just want to give you an idea of languages. In India, languages are either scheduled or non-scheduled. When we say scheduled, that means they are official languages in at least one of the states. Like I showed you 28 states and 8 union territories. So where they can be used as official languages. So we have 22 of them, like Hindi tops in terms of population, 43.63, and the rest of the languages, they have their own numbers, you can see most of them. For example, when I talked about Tamil Nadu, Tamil is the language. So if you say Marathi, Marathi is the language of Maharashtra. Though people speak Marathi everywhere, in Mumbai, it got its own variety of Hindi, Mumbai Hindi, which is the place for Bollywood. Maybe some of you watch Bollywood movies, so you will see that. But so you have main thing. So you also have other languages. 22 languages are there. The last two languages, Bodo is one, and Santali is another language, number 14. These are the only two languages which are indigenous that have become scheduled. And here I am very happy and proud to announce that just 2 days back we got a new president for India, the first indigenous president of India. She is from Santali and a woman. So I was very happy the moment I came here. We got some first time in the history of India, an indigenous person, and that too a lady has become the president of India, and she speaks Santali. Santali and Bodo are, like you can see, spoken by very few people. So this is the scheduled languages. There are 99 non-scheduled languages also, because you can see these are the language list. The biggest group being the Tibeto-Burmese group. Indo-European group, among the Indo-European group, we have Indo-Aryan languages that dominate. You have 21 languages. Like when you have Iranian also, we have a few speakers. There will be minorities in Indian context, Afghan or Pashto. You have Dravidian languages, Austroasiatic, also Arabic. So this is just the situation. There are some languages, at least 38 languages, who have appealed to the government of India. Decision is pending whether to include them in the list of scheduled languages or not. Even English is one of them. Because English is used everywhere, why can't it be made official instead of just associate or co-official? So we also have a division called major and minority languages. Major is the scheduled languages, minority, but defining minority language in an Indian context is not easy. For you, you may say in Brazil, Spanish or any other Italian, maybe minorities here. For us, it's not like that because it's not easy. I do not know how you define. We can talk about it. But for us, it's not simply like, okay, in Tamil Nadu, Tamil is the major language, all other languages are minor. You cannot say that. So what do we do? Because here what happens is, we have different varieties of minorities. Religious minorities, Christians, Muslims, and you have Sikhs, Jains, ethnic minorities, that means based on culture, what culture you are. And then you have linguistic minorities based on language. Our constitution also recognizes minorities based on religion, culture, language or script. We have articles. The word minorities also applies in our language policies. They use it. But no clear definition, who are these minorities? How do you apply? Where do you apply that? When you talk about minorities, which ones are you referring to? Is it the religious minorities or is it the linguistic minorities? When there were disputes, even Supreme Court of India gave a verdict. This is the verdict I would like to quote from there in 1958. Language of the minority community. So that means who are the minority community? A community numerically less than 50%. Suppose there is a community who are say 30% in say Mysore. Then the language they speak becomes a minority language. This is, but this is applicable only at the state level. But even what happens is, this is not completely followed in all states. For example, Bodo, Dogri, Kashmiri, many languages, they are spoken by more than 50% of people. Still, they are not considered as a major language for political reasons, socio-political reasons. So that way, like, what happens is in the earlier, before the new map was made, before the division, Jammu and Kashmir, when it was not, it was together. Urdu, even now, Urdu is the official language of Jammu and Kashmir, not Kashmiri, which is spoken by more than 50%. So these kind of problems are there. So that means the verdict of the Supreme Court saying that numerical strength, can we use that as a criterion to define minority language? We cannot, because the situation, reality is different. All right. So for us, what are these relative minorities and absolute minorities? For us, any speaker of a language found in another state in a smaller number, they will be relative minority. So that, like for example, you in that particular state, maybe Kannada is the official language, but then some other language, Telugu, which is a major language, is spoken in Karnataka. So that the relative minority. That means in a state, like for example, Portuguese, Spanish, if you take, Spanish is also a major language of the world. So like it is a major language somewhere, but it can be a relative minority in Brazil. That's the meaning of a relative minority. Absolute minority means the speakers, like you have Portuguese, but maybe say Guarani, which is, maybe Guarani is not the right example, some other indigenous language which is not which does not have any co-official status or official status, but say spoken in Argentina or Paraguay, then that will be absolute minority, because they are also a language from another place, but they are not major language. There are minorities can be of different types, either a speaker of a major language or a speaker of an indigenous language. So these are there. Now what's happening with all these things in India, because coexistence of languages in India is very common. Multilingualism is the norm of every Indian. Every Indian can speak at least 2 languages. So I can speak 3 languages very well, and I can speak Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, a little Malayalam, a little bit of Hindi, and of course English. And I have working knowledge of some other languages also. So that is there. Many people, but India of course continues to manifest a high degree of multilingualism wherever you go. People will speak, you will hear people speaking more languages, and of course, socio-linguistic heterogeneity is deep-rooted in our country because linguistic communities, especially the so-called pluralistic communities, are found everywhere in the country, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. Kanyakumari is near at the tip of Indian Ocean. So from the top to, from Himalayas to Indian Ocean, if you take north to south, you will find that everywhere you will find pluralistic communities are there, a lot of people. But main thing is, despite this linguistic diversity, grassroots level communication remains very open because we don't have issues much. They are very open and unimpaired. That's what many scholars have found. We do not have issues. There are language conflicts when it comes to identity crisis, especially in Northeast India and other places. But like I told you, when you draw a straight line between Kashmir and Kanyakumari, and say every 5 or 10 miles, you will find there is no break in communication. Language is not a barrier. Every 5 miles. So you can travel if you are a biker. You will be fine and you will see that. So language maintenance is a norm, and language shift is just a deviation. It is never an obstacle. It is just a deviation for us, because that is something you can see. Alright, now a little bit about language policies. With this, so many states, so many union territories, so many languages, it was very difficult when India became free what to do with this situation, and so leaders of those days, especially Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, was instrumental in proposing and implementing something called linguistic reorganization of states. That's how the states also got reorganized in terms of their mother tongues. And then people started, okay, so many states are there, how do we communicate, how do we promote language, how do we promote national integration and harmony through languages. So a formula called three-language formula was introduced. What does this mean is, in every state, you must learn, like in addition to learning own mother tongue, you must learn, like of course, Hindi and English. This was fully endorsed by Hindi and English in southern states. In northern states, it will be regional language, one of the South Indian languages, and English. But what happened was, this was not accepted by everyone. In 1961, there were a lot of oppositions, especially in Tamil Nadu and some parts of Northeast India. So it was not possible to introduce another language in many states, especially Tamil Nadu. So what do we do, and how is it related to my talk today? Then, of course, people have a lot of scope for translation and interpretation when you are using only a few languages. These things are happening. And even our articles, there is provision in the language policies of the nation to use your own language, your own script, to preserve your own language. Article 29 has that. Everybody, anybody speaking a language or a script or culture has the right to conserve the same. So that means it also guarantees the rights of minorities to conserve their language. And also, whether you are religious minority or linguistic minority, you can establish your own educational institution. So there are many provisions for promotion of languages, and also provisions to provide facilities for instruction in mother tongue. And President of India has the power to appoint special officers to investigate and safeguard the rights of linguistic minorities. There are many policies which have been done by the Constitution. We also, that Constitution of India is called as the 8th schedule. In the 8th schedule, these 22 languages are recognized as official languages. In addition to 8th schedule, since India, I showed you the left hand of India, Northeast India, where you don't have, there are many languages which are not official languages. Only only Bodo, Manipuri, Assamese, 3 languages in 8 states. The 8 states are called as 7 states and the lone brother. Sikkim is the lone brother. And 7 sisters are the different 7 states. Most of the indigenous people live there, but they do not have, their languages are not used as official languages. So what to do for administration of the tribal areas? The indigenous people in India, we call them as tribals. Okay, that's for administrative purposes and not for any other derogative meaning. So they set up for something called Shik schedule here. The idea was, so the language spoken by those people can be used as an associate language in administration and also at schools. That was the idea. In a nutshell, despite all these language policies, we can say and see that there is no explicit planning for the status of particular languages. What is the status? There is nothing which says what is the status of your language. Is it official or minority? That part is missing there. And also, just giving an article saying that you have the right to preserve your language, you have the right to do whatever you want to conserve the language, is in one sense an implicit form of status planning, yes, but when it comes to acquisition, teaching and learning of those languages, or when it comes to other types of planning, we see that it lacks. And as far as translation policies are concerned, I will talk about it in a bit. When it comes to medium of instruction also, the government of India tends to favor mother tongue instruction, but the reality is different because English dominates in higher education, and like most of the higher education is in English. That is there. And, now in 2020 again we got a 3-language new formula. Here there is a greater flexibility. Here the difference is no language will be imposed on any state. The state is free to pick up its languages, 3 languages. Okay. Regional language, the language of your own choice, and English. So English is going to be there.
So it's important.
Important, yes, because it's important because we cannot communicate with fellow Indians without that. It's very, very difficult. So I'm just keeping these things because our goal is translation studies. So now what's happening with linguistics and translation studies in India? First of all, let's take a look at place of linguistics itself. In academia, if you look at different institutions, even the United States, which is doing a lot of work in linguistics, you will see that it is not placed just in humanities. In some countries, it's placed in the School of Social Sciences. In some cases, it will be placed in humanities. I do not know about Pappuswamy here, where it is placed. We will talk about it. So even in the US and other places, every time people get grants for doing a lot of work. But when you say, okay, where does linguistics belong? Is it a social science subject or is it a humanities subject?
It depends.
Yes?
It depends.
Exactly. So it depends on what? It depends on how you think, how linguists think. So it depends on how linguists think. That's how it is. And then how the university, the linguists think about it and give their suggestions to your university, and the university authorities decide and recommend it, endorse it, ratify it in whatever academic councils and place it. So in any case, you see, of course, linguists by and large view themselves as scientists, right? We are scientists. We are language engineers. And then that's why we say we study linguistics from the scientific perspective. In India, linguistics is placed in humanities, the School of Humanities. The other subjects shared there will be literature. You will have languages also, like not just literature, but teaching a language education, for example. And then you have other departments like any language department, like you have Italian, like that we have Hindi or Garo or Kasi, so many other departments can be together. Translation itself now, many of you are interested and what is this subject? Why is it important? Because like I said, English is the lingua franca of India. English, of course, is also the international lingua franca, but not everything cannot be translated only in English and vice versa. It's important to translate it into other languages. So let's see what is happening and what is the role of translation when it comes to languages. What does the word mean? It comes from Latin and it means to bring or carry across. That's the original meaning. Since you are speakers of, you are from Latin America, you should tell me more about this. So this is the meaning actually. So this is actually from the ancient Greek word of metaphrasis, which means to speak across. It could be oral translation also. To speak across. That was there, and from that metaphrase was born. That means word for word translation. Earlier days they were doing word for word translation, but it's not possible to always do word for word. You have to understand a word in its context while translating, otherwise it can be wrong, it will be wrong. So that is there. In my, how do you say, or how do you translate translation in your mother tongue? Please think about it. Like in Latin they say carry across, Greek, ancient Greek they say speak across. In my language Tamil we say moli payarpo. Moli means language, payarpo means carry across. It's interesting. It's interesting, we have the same idea as the Latin. I'm really surprised. It's exactly the same meaning. Moli payarpo. What do you carry across? You carry the language across while translating. So that's what in my language. In Sanskrit, because I know he knows a little bit of Hindi, so in Sanskrit you see that they say anuvada, which literally means after speech. It seems wrong. It's not after speech. So some problem is there in that. So of course the field of translation in India itself is very old. It started from 2nd century or even earlier, but at least from 2nd century we have literature. I was even showing them from 2nd of the Tirkural, which is translated in many languages. Yeah.
Just curiosity, like you said in Tamil, like the word translation is like linked to language and carry across.
Yes.
Right. But if you want to say semiotic translation, which can be between two sides,
that's also a language.
Yeah, but it seems like you link the word to the language. It's another kind of translation, which I don't know.
Yes, but you see, when we say moli, moli is language. Language can be verbal and non-verbal.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about semiotics, it is a study of science, study of non-verbal communication. So semiotic translation will be
language.
Non-verbal language carry across. Right, because the idea is the same. So that is there. So we started from 2nd century in India. So of course I would like to talk about an interesting episode, because all of you are familiar with World War. Of course, none of us were. At least in histories, we have seen and known about many facts about the World War. An interesting incident which changed the history of Japan was due to a mistranslation of a particular word uttered by the Japanese premier Kantara Suzuki when he was asked what does your government feel about the Allies' request that Japan should surrender. He replied in one word, mokusatsu. Mokusatsu, that's all he said, and walked away. The one word answer was translated wrongly as not worthy of comment. Means, it's not worthy, just forget it, it's not even worthy of talking about it. But that's not what he said. He meant to say, no comment. Bureaucratic answer.
Yeah.
Right? But because of this wrong translation, what happened? Exactly. So that's what happened. The bombs went off 10 days later because they understood Japan did not want to surrender, bombed them. So that's how the US dropped the atomic bombs on 2 cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So you please remember, those of you who are working on translation studies, like there are at least 2 of you somewhere here, one I can see and one more was there, I don't know where she is now. Yeah, so yeah, here. You have to see that it's important if you're going to translate something which means something important. If you're a doctor and you're going to translate, it's life-threatening also. You're a police investigator and you're a Supreme Court judge, if you're doing wrong translations. It depends who you are and for what you're doing. And it's easy to mistranslate, but consequences are very, very bad. So it's not simply speak across or carry across. You have a huge load to carry. The load is not easy. It's a huge load. All right, this field translation has kept India really together as one nation, because without that we would not have survived. Such a big country and lot of cultures, how do we live together in harmony? Otherwise it would have been difficult. It's because we could translate our literature, culture, philosophy. Somebody wanted to do yoga translation. Who was that? Somebody. You, right? Yeah. So, like, there are many things in Indian philosophy, so it kept us all together, translating all these things in different languages, across Indian languages, our own knowledge systems. All these things would have been impossible if translation was not there. So we have our 2 great epics called Ramayana and Mahabharata, which are translated into almost all major Indian languages. And there are variants of Ramayana in Thailand. So that's an epic, the story of Ram. So it's translated into many. And there are people, of course, we have someone interested. I'm surprised she is interested in a Bengali writer, Amita Ghosh. She reads, and so she was I just had an interaction with her. So I'm surprised to know his books are translated into Portuguese.
The first one.
Wow. O Grande Destination, something you showed me. Grande.
I forgot the title.
Destination. Grande Destination, great destination. So anyway, so there are books translated from Bengali into Portuguese. So, and the 2 contemporary ones. He's a good writer. So that way it's good. So anyway, what is the role of translation now? Yes, in earlier days it kept us together. Now in modern century, the 21st century, now with all these languages, 22 languages, hundreds of mother tongues, thousands of dialects, written in 13 different scripts, how can translation keep us together? It does. Because people do that. So not only translating literature, philosophy, nowadays we translate also science, technology, everything what we need. Anything you can lay hands on. Google Translate is also helping, but it does only for some scheduled languages of India, not the non-scheduled languages. Many of them don't have visibility in the cyberspace. So many things are there. And of course, when it comes to translation, like I told you, 2nd century onwards we're doing, so we have translated quite a bit of ancient literature across Indian languages, colonial literature, colonial writings, post-colonial, post-modernism, all these writings were also being done. And of course, India's freedom struggle and all other democratic struggles also utilized many translations of great writers. Many, I just put a few here, Victor Hugo, Leo Tolstoy, many great European writers, Asian writers, many writers we have. Now I would like to take you into a small journey of what's happening and what are the issues when it comes to translation, specific types of translation, because it's not the same. If you are going to translate literary work like Amitav Ghosh or any famous writer of Portuguese into Kannada or Hindi or Tamil, it's literary translation, literature, right? So what we do here, see, even in India, or maybe it's the same in Brazil, most of your first writers may have been translators. They would have translated Tolstoy's War and Peace. I don't know who is the writer. I don't know your writers. I'm sorry, but I should learn. So, but many of the writers would have been translators. Like that, in India also we had such writers. So, Indian literature itself grew. Only the foundation was this translation. Okay, then slowly, like everything started, adaptations. Like you see, in most of our languages, all of us would have got some translated version of the religious book, your holy book, if you follow any religion. So that was the first thing exposed, or a dictionary. And then slowly things start coming. Like I already told you about Ramayana, Mahabharata, these are stories. Each one will have their different versions according to their culture. That's why we say last in translation. So because something original would have been there, but in your culture something is not acceptable. You want your child to learn the right things, good things. You would change it according to your culture. So such adaptations were there. That's why we say adaptations. It's not just translations. Adaptations were also there. And of course, most of our ancient writers were multilingual. They were all like proficient in 2 or 3 languages. So that was possible. So for many languages, not only books, lyrics, poetry. People translated Shakespeare also into many languages, right? Sonnets and other things. Helen of Troy, like Troy, the Trojan horse, Troy. All that was the Greek literature also, like a lot of languages we had. And so, but Tirukural, that's what I was talking with Professor Andrea and Professor Gilman. We were talking about it, and this is basically called as the sacred verses. This is one of the old pieces of Tamil classical literature. Tamil is a classical language. There it's called also as Kural. Here we have 1330 couplets. Each of them have only 7 words. The first line will have 4 words. Second line will have 3 words. In 7 letters, a lot of message is given in 3 different domains. Agam, Porul, Invam, like virtue, then love, and also on like many aspects of life. So this is translated in many languages, European languages also. We saw it was translated in French also. Portuguese is not yet done. So maybe we were discussing maybe our institution, we can collaborate and we can take it up. So this text I already told you, Aram, Porul, Invam, like Aram means virtue, wealth and love. So anything you want to know about virtue or love or wealth, even today, it gives you meaningful advice. So you can see that, and you can. This was done more than 40 plus. 40 plus means 20 already Indian languages and 20 foreign languages. 40 plus we have quite a bit. So in this website coral.pro, you can find a lot of information about these translations. And when it comes to literary translation, many institutions are involved. Sahitya Academy means the Academy of Letters. That's an academy which also gives awards. Like I know you are also giving awards to people and for literary works. It's one of the prestigious awards a person can get. Sahitya Academy, then we have National Book Trust, many associations. And of course, it's not just for us, Indians, but also for whom we call as NRI, non-resident Indians. They may belong to diaspora or may not, but they may be a non-resident. And also others who are interested. And there a lot of literary festivals are there. Somebody was telling you are in jail. So like there are literary festivals held in many places. Berlin, of course. Can you believe Indian festivals, literary festivals in Berlin? So they are doing. And they Jaipur book fairs are also even in other countries like Frankfurt, cities like Paris, London, Abu Dhabi. So it's held in many places to promote Indian literature and translation. These are all the book fairs are held. A lot of work is done. Many initiatives by Government of India because they also launched Indian literature abroad. They have launched. I don't know whether you have anything about Portuguese literature abroad. Any idea? No.
Programs for promoting Brazilian literature abroad, there are programs like that. And the government pays for the translators from other countries, editorial houses from other countries, and if they propose to translate Brazilian books into other cultures. That's a kind of
that is there, okay. So that's nice. So we also, of course, all these big shots publishers, they also are very much interested in taking up literary translations. That is why you see a lot of works that are being translated. And when it comes to knowledge translation, you may say, what is knowledge? Please don't ask me a philosophical question. Right? Then because knowledge, and I'm not going into definitions of what is knowledge, and everything is knowledge. Literary translation is also knowledge, literary knowledge. But people have coined this term to just talk about knowledge text, which is wrong according to me. Because everything is knowledge, but this is what is being done. Translation of knowledge text. That means medicine, as if other places there is no knowledge. Knowledge is like information or what, everywhere it is there, but there is a special meaning given here. Okay, medical text, engineering text, geography, history, or about music, or anything. So all these things seem to be there. Even modern art, all sorts of things. So everything is there, but now this kind of task was given to us, to Central Institute of Indian Languages. We have a mission called National Translation Mission, NTM. The job is to do this, translate textbooks and classical works in many subjects, sociology, history, mathematics, so many subjects, linguistics also, political science, all these things to various scheduled languages of India, into 22. Our scheduled languages are 22. So if there is a book, for example, a book called Hind Swaraj, written by Mahatma Gandhi. So, okay, now that book is translated into 22 languages, which are official languages. So all the books, if you say there is a book, good book written by Noam Chomsky, and then people wanted to read it. Yes?
But in this case, in this mission, CIL has the translators, or CIL make cooperation with other institutions to create capacity for translating?
We have both. We have both. So what happens is we have employed linguists who are proficient in at least 2 languages. One is having people, but then when you feel like you're translating something from, say, Kannada to Tamil, chances are there that the person employed may not know that language. So then they adopt 2 methods. Either they call for a workshop, outsource the manpower, like call the Tamil writers or Tamil language experts, and then divide the chapters among them, and then somebody has to compile. Then there will be a group of people to sit and edit it. It's a long process if they don't know the language. But most of the texts are done like that. At least there will be, if you know the language, from English to like Kannada would have been easy for them, because a person would know English and I can translate that. But from Kannada to Tamil, across Indian languages, it will be difficult. Or you have to go by translating first that into English and then into Tamil. See, books normally, what they do is they try to hold workshops. But sometimes we get court documents, legal documents, which cannot be disclosed, right? But then the court needs the help because they may have somebody's all the court statements, police statements, investigation, everything written in a language which is not the language of the state. So what happens? And the people involved in that particular crime or so-called accused may speak another language. So for example, in Karnataka, maybe the accused were speakers of Tamil. They would have given statements in Tamil or their recording. So people would approach CIL and say, can this be translated? So if we can find a person who is proficient in 2 languages, we do it directly. If not, English comes in the middle, but again the situation is the same Japanese situation. You have to be very careful. Otherwise, you will unfortunately sentence somebody to death with for no fault of his, but for fault of your incompetency in translation. So then cross-check, of course, such things nowadays, because nowadays I think all over the world people do that. They cross-check the translation, but sometimes it's not possible if you have a 100-page document or 80-page document. It's not easy, but we do that. We do quite a bit of such work. That's why our institute, like, we can also support. Like sometimes you have to go to with the police officers to a particular field, and they will be interrogating, and you have to not just interpret but also do the translation. So it's not just interpretation. So it's a difficult job, but people do it, all sorts of things. Now coming to media translation, because this is very important, because nowadays the media is very powerful. Like earlier days it was just print media, now you have digital media. Nowadays like it goes like in nanoseconds. Whatever you say something sitting here, it's going on YouTube right now, right? So if somebody was interpreting, or if I myself say something in a different language, I can be misquoted. So such things are there. So many things, visual media, auditory media, these are also translation is, what happens is in our newspapers, magazines in India, we have lots of languages. So even for Tamil, you have more than 6,000 newspapers. So it's lots and lots of newspapers, channels, television channels, but only for the major languages. Minor languages still have the problem. They have only minority languages. They will have a few newspapers, sometimes no television channel. They have to watch in their the language of the dominant region. Parents will sit and interpret for them. God knows what is being interpreted. So these kind of problems are there in media translation also. So of course we have one television channel like ZTV. You have ZTV's main language is Hindi, but you have Z Tamil, Z Kannada, Z Bangla, Z Marathi. So you have different versions. And many of the soap operas nowadays are being dubbed. Dubbing is interesting, right? Dubbing is another translation in one sense. So subtitling is another. In media you have different techniques and strategies to carry across. So you have different things to do. That's what dubbing, subtitling are may be available sometimes, may not be available in different languages. You have all these things. Nowadays if I want to watch a Portuguese movie, I can select a language subtitle, what I know. If I know French or if I know English, I can select. Same for you, Hindi. If you want to watch a Hindi or Tamil or Telugu, Kannada movie, you can select. But I don't think Portuguese translation may not come. But some other European language you will get besides English. So things are happening in media translation. There are other types of translation also, like media translation. Of course, journalistic translation itself is a big field. Media translation is just a part of it. Journalism is not just media, right? So you have more things. Legal text and translation is very difficult. I already told you courtroom judgments and other things. Mathematics and translation are very difficult. Try doing some equations in your language. Do we have a pen here? No?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. No, anything, because how you say, just simple. How do you say it in your language? Before I continue the next slide. Even in schools, we start talking about, I don't want to say how I say. Can you read it? Okay, please read it for me.
In our mother tongue.
Any tongue, yeah, mother tongue. You have to use your tongue anyway.
4 vezes 5.
4 per 5.
Okay.
4 times 5.
So she says 4 times 5 is the what it means. 4 times 5. In my country, when we teach children, we say 4 into 5. So there are different ways of doing this. Yeah. So 4 into 5. So that is and same with addition or subtraction or whatever. 4 plus 5 is the English one. So we will say 4 adding 5, add 5, or piling 5, keeping 5, stacking 5, like that. So it's how you translate. Yes?
5 into 4.
5 into 4. You in your language?
No, I'm asking you, it's right to say 5 into 4.
Yes, why not? Doesn't matter what number it is there. Even 20 into 100 also you will say into. So when the tables, when people are reading the tables in school, children, 4 into 1 equal to 4, 4 into 2, so you have to go like that. 4 into 3, 4 into 4, 4 into 5. So it's like that. So
Mathematics, I know it's very difficult.
yes.
Do you have there some problem related to numbers expressing more things? Because, for example, in Portuguese, we have, the numbers are gendered. That we have dois and duas.
Yes.
And I read, I had to translate, in fact, text by...
So dois, can you tell me which ones? Dois is what?
Dois for male and duas for female.
Okay. See, now when you are having gender, so that is where now you made my life easy because you're connecting linguistics with translation now.
In Umarani, there are more concepts attached to numbers.
Yes.
You know,
So to be more
age.
specific, I'm going to use the word numerous because number can also mean singular and plural in, right? So number can mean different things in linguistics. So of course it's a number, a numeral is a number. So when we use a numeral, in some languages, numerals are marked for gender. So then you want to say 4 times 5. If it is written text, you may use a neutral, a common way of saying it. Maybe I believe your common way is the masculine way or what?
Oh, usually.
Why do you still accept it being a woman? Anyway, no, I'm just joking. So,
It depends on what is being counted. What is being counted is male or female. Then the
Agreement.
agrees.
okay, but if nothing is there, and if you have to only read this, and if it is written, then that way, if nothing is there, the default gender will be masculine for you. I am analyzing it as a linguist. I don't know Portuguese. Right? I'm analyzing it as a linguist. The dominant gender or the common one when there is nothing, the default is masculine, right? Like many Indo-European languages have. That is what is happening. Oh, you said I shouldn't cross the boundary. I did.
Okay.
I have a boundary here.
That's no problem.
So, but I'm sorry, I have to use the board. Yeah. So now, but what happens is when the gender is there, if you have more, see, word by word translation difficult. That is why many biblical translations also were misinterpreted by many. Okay. So that is why people afterwards say context is important because a word gets its fuller meaning only in its context. You know a word by the company it keeps. that way, even for mathematics translation, company is important. What is the context, and especially if you have problems like gender interfering, not just numerals, it could be adjectives. You have statements in mathematics which will say you got 3 brown breads or whatever. So you have to see whether adjectives also take any gender or what's happening with you. So that is something one has to see. There are so many issues. Translation of science, not semiotics. You asked me. That is also there because it's not easy. Because landscaping, linguistic landscaping in every village, in every place, you have to see what's happening with science. Like there you will see how sometimes they can be misinterpreted. These are all important things. So little of each of those 4 topics I wanted to talk about. And journalistic translation, you and I cannot do it. It's a special field of expertise. You have to study journalism and you should know, you should have proficiency in more than one language. Only then you can become a translator for journalism. Just because I know 4 Indian languages, I cannot be qualified to be a journalist translator because I lack training in journalism. You need training in the subject. You need training in mathematics also. And only then you can do the justice. So here it's a subject. So, and also because journalism is very difficult because you go and see the life of journalists. Crazy job. Every minute you have to find something, right? But there are people who like it and then you do it, and that is why you have a lot of demand for. Every time you have to give something new, print and electronic media. Your Twitter has to be different from somebody else's. Your newspaper's caption should be different. So this is not an easy job, and then how they do it. And what is their mission? To disseminate news, but in different languages, not just one language for one nation. And all these things are there. That is why we are asking who are the key players here. The key players, of course, qualified translators. That means we are talking about translation studies now. Once you have a degree, a professional degree, you are a qualified translator. You may be a qualified translator, but do you have the essential skills to do journalistic translation? See, I may be a linguist. Am I good in phonology? Only if I know and understand that particular discipline, only then I become a specialist in that. So that is something we have to see.
It doesn't apply to every field of knowledge.
Yes, exactly. That is true of every field. Translating newspaper headlines is also not easy. Because headlines are important in a newspaper because what do you do when you are sitting in a metro or somewhere? I saw it in Rio also. People are just looking into news. Headline interest, then you want to read the news. If headline is not interesting, you are skimming through. So headline is basically key to reach the global audience. Even in Twitters or any tags, hashtags, the hashtags are important because people put it in different languages and then it gets the same message where you can see in a Twitter in different languages because of the hashtags. The Me Too. For some time the Me Too campaign was going on. For a while everybody was afraid to say Me Too, right? So because of that, so many such things happen. So do you think it's easy to translate headlines? It's not easy, but do you want to try? 2 minutes? So these are real newspaper headlines from different English newspapers, New York Times, Washington Post and other things. Trump gets 9 years in violent case. All these are ambiguous in English. Suppose you translate it into Portuguese. Unless you know the real meaning, intended meaning, you won't do the right one. You are not asking a drunk person to stay 9 years into the bag where you carry violence, right? It is a court judgment. Farmer bill dies in house. 2 meanings. Can you try me the third one? Prostitutes appeal to Pope. What are the two meanings here? The word appeal is ambiguous. So the ambiguity lies in whether the Pope is attracted to prostitutes, the attract meaning, or the second meaning is
They speak with the Pope.
the appeal. Yeah, they appeal. You have a problem and you are appealing. Both can be true if there is a notorious person, but the intended meaning would have been the second meaning where they appeal the Pope, request for something, right? So that could have been there. Stolen painting found by tree. Can a tree find a painting? So that
Close to a tree, right?
it can be near the tree. That can be there, or it could be a charity organization called Tree. See, meanings are like you don't know. Deer kill 300,000. What kind of news is this? The deer cannot kill 300,000 people. It is an American newspaper which they meant was in that particular area, Pennsylvania or somewhere.
It's an acronym, no?
People, the deer crosses the highway. People drive very fast. So the count of deer kill is increasing. By motorists, by people who drive cars, hit and run. So this kind of things. So quite a bit of things. I like that include children when baking cookies. So you got the meaning, right? So where you are not cutting the children and putting them in. You are asking them to join in America in the process. But why? Why? Because I don't know here, in America, especially when you say America, you are also Latin Americans, but the United States people, they always say include children while baking cookies. There is a tradition of baking cookies during Christmas. So you want family to be together and children to be together, help in learning things. So, okay, while baking cookies, you include that. So they will make some designs, different designs, and that was the last one. Minors refuse to work after death. So these kind of problems are there. Many more are there, but I am not going to show many more here. Quite a bit is there, okay? That was important for journalist translation. It is very difficult. I had many more, but I hate that.
We find a lot of those kind of sentences in nonsense literature.
In literature?
Yeah, in nonsense or
nonsense.
Yeah.
See, another thing.
We have two meanings for everything.
You must see, language can be boring if a word has only one meaning. We will not have humor, you would not have laugh. Humor, jokes, these things came only because every language has words which have multiple meanings to amuse ourselves, right? So sometimes it's important to have such ambiguity, otherwise, so that is there. So then when it comes to legal translation, we have quite a bit of things here. Even this is translation because here you have to be even more careful because it involves law. We already discussed about the danger of doing a wrong translation when it comes. But it is not easy. Do you think law, anyone who practices law, even if you use English in your country, do you think all of us have the same terminology? No. Each country has its own terminology. That is the problem. Even English-speaking countries, even though the language is English, the UK legal terminology is different from the United States, or Australia, or New Zealand, or us, Indians, or you, if you have to use your wording translated into English, so you have different problems. Because here also you must have the knowledge, you must possess familiarity, you must be competent in the target language, only then you can do justice. I'll just show you like some Indian legal terms. Accommodate, I don't know these terms, okay? Because I am not a lawyer by practice. I have to have a dictionary to see what it means. So because what does commodate mean? The loan of a specific chattel to be used free of charge under certain conditions. See, covel, I never knew the term covel, which means a type of long-term lease of real property. Like if you have a long-term lease with your landlord for a house or a business. We don't know these words, but these are not used in the same sense in other countries. In UK, you see Calder Bank letter, an offer by a party to settle claims, even to read that it is difficult. Because what I want to emphasize here is the terminology is very difficult. Leapfrog appeal. What is leapfrog appeal? In the UK, they will say, I have appealed, leapfrog appeal. That means an appeal directly from the High Court to the House of Lords regarding a matter of general public importance. So it jumped. They did not give the verdict, it jumped. So it's difficult. That is in the UK. United Kingdom, then US also. Deep rock doctrine. What does rock has to do with it? So this is something to do with a legal doctrine by which a remedy may be available for improper conduct in connection with a loan to a corporation by controlling shareholder. Many cut, so many terms which we do not know. Coming to mathematics, since we were having some interesting dialogues, try translating this now. 4 less than, yes, x minus 4 you will write. But then, how do you, 4 less than x they say. But we would have said in Indian English, I would have said 4 minus x. I would not have used 4 less than x. I would not have used. They use less than, but I would have simply used minus. So 9 less than total of a number and 2. To look at these translations for n minus 2, n plus 2 minus 9. And even versus translating such statements of mathematics. Mary collects pet rocks. Alright, you can translate that. Next, she was given 23 for her 9th birthday. And then she bought 6 more with her own money. How many pet rocks does she own in all? Simple it looks, but when you translate, you have problems. So she bought 6 more. Answer is of course 23 plus 6, then you have 29. She has 29 pet rocks. But then, how do you translate that whole English in it into Portuguese? These are the problems we have. And multilingual science, the semiotic ones, because here you see a linguistic landscape somewhere in Tamil Nadu, which we see everywhere in every country. The first script here is Tamil and the second is English. So here it's only name of the place, there was no problem. Official signs, when you translate, there seems to be no problem. Because the government signs, official signs. Even this is universal. Even if you don't know the script, you know what it means. Stop. Pare, right here?
Pare.
Pare. So, at least we know, we see it. So that kind of things we see. But look at this now. Here's a nice, interesting currency of India Portuguese. When Portuguese colony was, they were there in India. So their currency. So you can see, I cannot read Portuguese, but do you think it is correct compared to Ranco National on Tree Merino? Looks like this was 100 rupees, right? So
100 something, maybe not.
100 something. Not rupees those days, of course.
Nothing.
But it doesn't write, it is not written, the currency.
Alguém vê daí que eu estou sem óculos?
100 escudos.
100 escudos. 100 escudos.
So that existed, that currency existed.
Yes.
Okay.
It was the currency from Portugal too.
Okay. So they used the same. They used the same in the currency. And here the new note, if you see Reserve Bank of India, in our Indian currency you will find at least 17, how many languages? We have quite a number of Indian script. This is Tamil script, 50 rupees. But we have quite a number of languages written there. Not all 22 languages are written. Some of the languages are written here in rupees. Here we say, like quite a bit of information now in this. Here are some more signs. This is also, you can see across the world. These are again real signs which were clicked by many people, okay? Launch for the weak. So they are translated what they want, how, for tired people, just launch they wanted. If you're tired, you will go retire. Retiring room in British English. Retiring room. Launch for the weak. You became weak, you became tired. And another, this is even interesting. Danger. If you fall in the pond, you will be boiled. So that means it's something hot is there. Don't be, watch out, don't go there. So that's the, even here is the toilet. One place, one dream. Don't know what it is. So I have no idea why they translated like that. We have just no idea. So then, of course, you find such things everywhere, not just pictures. So many, I don't want to read everything here. But a cocktail lounge in Norway. Ladies are requested not to have children in the bar. That means don't bring children, not saying not deliver children. So many such things. So quite a bit is here. I just wanted you to read the yellow highlighted one because of the time. Here the yellow one, in a hotel in Japan. You are invited to take advantage of the chamber meal. I don't know what they wanted to say. What they wanted to say is, please approach her for any help. But it's wrongly put. And look at another outside Paris restaurant. Dresses for street walking. They wanted to say casual dress, casual wear, but street walking. So quite a bit. So even another one. This is also fine. A sign on a car in Philippines. Car and owner for sale. You don't buy owner. So interesting. In a New Zealand restaurant, this is I really liked this. Open 7 days a week and weekdays too. So what is their concept of a week? Week for them is office week, working week. So 7 days a week and weekends too. So it's quite a bit of interesting. Anyway, the many more things of translation. For lack of time, we will not go into this. But business, political translation is dangerous. Very difficult to translate political speeches. So medical, all sorts of things we have. There are so many translations, of course, in our country. We have translation courses, degrees, certificate programs. We create a lot of manpower by giving. My institute does that. It gives training for anyone who wants to become a translator. It gives 45 days course or some workshops. They need sometimes 5 days, sometimes 12 days. So people learn something, the basics of translation. And there are other institutions who also put or give such work. And there are many translations because if your language is pluricentric, in one place maybe the meaning is perceived differently, maybe European Portuguese will have a different meaning and you have a different concept to do. So such kind of issues are also there. And sometimes it's not possible to find a proper lexical equivalent. That is why all those people had put those funny interpretation style at one place, one dream. I don't know what they really wanted to say. I have to ask people. Quite a bit of there. So I'm just skipping this. The problems of translation is it's not just finding equivalent word and expressions in the target languages because it's not, sometimes it's difficult to, you have to understand the concept. There may be some concepts are absent. If your culture didn't, see for example, in old Tamil culture or even now, eating with fork is not our culture. Okay, so fork is a borrowed word for us. So if I have to give a translation, we have coined a word. Sometimes you have coined a word. Mul karandi, the translation for fork. A spoon with thorns. That is the word for fork. because that was not there. So these kind of things are there. So in every text your meanings, culture meanings are very specific, because whatever you are using, your ingredients, the cuisine, whatever you eat, different mean, only you will know what it is, what is the right meaning. It's difficult to explain. The other day I was explaining I can cook tapioca with skin. These two people are laughing, but I'm going to really cook and show it. So it's just tapioca. What is tapioca?
Mandioca.
Mandioca. So we cook it with the skin. And they too were saying, like Josangela and Jinwon said, no way, we cannot cook it with. So how do you translate then the word for my cooking in that? There are expressions in Tamil too. So these things vary, connotations are there, figures of speech, metaphors are very difficult, okay? So very difficult to translate proverbs, idioms, like even I fell in love. Can you say it in Portuguese? I love you, all languages have. You tell it to a girl or you say it to a man, I love you. But in English you can say I fell in love. Literally falling in love. So do you have that expression? You fall in love? Literally falling?
Yeah, yes.
It's arcade line, I think.
Yeah, so you have to see that there are idioms like kick the bucket in English. Kick the bucket means John kicked the bucket this morning. It's not kicking the bucket. He died. So there may not be equivalent in our languages, but sometimes you don't want to, in many cultures, you don't want to use the word died when you want to tell the message to somebody, because it may bring grief, it may cause psychological distress. So they want to say it in different ways. He went to heaven. Some different ways. They don't use the word died directly. So but then you should know the culture, only then you can translate such expressions. Kinship terms are very difficult. In English, like you have uncle and aunt, like whether it is, if your father has 4 brothers also, they are all uncles. But in many languages, for us, it will be different. First uncle of my father will be, in many indigenous languages, for each of these 4 uncles, you will have 4 different terms. If your mother has 7 sisters, 7 sisters are not just aunts. There are names to express that. So these are a lot of problems are there when you translate. Of course, when it comes to policies, many of the countries do not have good policies for translation. Like even though we have like bilingualism, multilingualism are all debated by linguists, even today we feel like there is like a gap, a vacuum in having or formulating translation policies. We have 447 living languages. We have implemented a policy whereby Hindi and English are official at national level, and also we choose legally to recognize a language. But what are the policies when it comes to translating? Even in a multilingual country like India, we just do not have specific policies, but the government has central bureaus of translation. I already talked about National Translation Mission and different other things. We also have an act, which is the only translation policy in one sense we can tell about India. An Official Language Act in 1963, which authorized Hindi translation of central acts, or say state acts, optional use of Hindi or other official language in judgments of high courts. That's all we have the policy when it comes to translating judiciary matters, but other matters we don't have any policy. This is the act itself. These are the acts. This is the Central Translation Bureau's website where they do a lot of activities, quite a bit they do. And I already talked about NTM. This is in CIL, we already said that. And 3-language formula also I talked about it. This is just like a recap now for you, because earlier formula said that it's must for everyone to learn also Hindi, but now flexible. no imposition of any language in the state. This gives us more flexibility and freedom if we want to study or translate our literature into any of the other Indian languages, because there is no imposition of any language that is there. And in new three-language formula, the Educational Policy 2020, we are also talking about Ek Bharat, Shrestha Bharat. This one nation, one language, this kind of programs are being started. Here we are saying that now the new policy is for children studying in 6th grade to 8th grade, there should be a chapter or a lesson talking about languages of India. So that's nice, people will write about it in different languages also, in mother tongue education, languages of India, and also short films or documentaries can be produced and translated across languages about an indigenous language or culture, so children can know their neighbors better, because most of the time they don't know anything. They just know their own language, their people. So these kind of things are there. So of course we are talking about so many things, learning for all, equitable, inclusive education, but it is important to create knowledge and other texts also in different languages. For that, translation is important. So also in teacher education, because if you do not have good teachers to teach the different subjects, then mother tongue education will be a failure. That is why we need translation to help connect cultures. Writers' contribution is very important. We have to train them. So that means a lot of things to do. Creation of vocabulary is one thing, and because we know that once you have enough materials you have produced in different languages, it can be a tool to help you cross the barriers and promote cultures. For lack of time, I am not going into the details of all these things, but the point is crossing barriers and connecting cultures through translation. That is very, very important. Our mission is we do translation of within Indian languages and also India other indigenous languages. Now I would like to put this in different languages. So since I am standing here, I should have added also Muito Obrigada, but I just added Obrigada. So Muito Obrigada, thanks for your attention. Ungal gavanatthirku nandri. There are scripts in Hindi. I cannot read Persian. Someone helped me to do the last one. So this one I cannot read, but Kannada, Tamil, Hindi. So the meaning is all the same. Thanks for your attention. Shukran. Once again, thank you, both of you, Professor Andhya and Professor Jerman, for inviting me. If there are other questions or interactions or anything, I'll be very happy. I don't know how long I spoke. I took a lot of time. Yeah, 2 hours basically. Oh my God.
No?
Oh, okay.
Talvez o tempo está um pouco adiantado, a gente pode fazer algumas perguntas ainda, né? Se houver interesse. Eu vou começar com uma enquanto vocês estão pensando. I would like to ask you, once I visited the European Parliament in Strasbourg, and I was very impressed with the information that the biggest part of the money of the budget of the Parliament was used for translation.
Wow.
And that is the institution with the biggest number of translators in Europe. Do you know some work that study the economic value of translation in India? How much money is spent in Indian government or in general through different methodologies? How to measure the investment that India is making with translation? Do you know some work about that?
Yeah, I don't know the exact figure. Like I already told you, one of the institutions working on translation is CIL. We do get a grant. I cannot give you exact number immediately, but there is a grant coming and we are employed. But we also have a lot of work, not just by Government of India. Even private translations are happening. So I don't think there is an exact number we can give for that, because it's also in some cases like commercialized. But but it's an interesting thing to look into. Let me try finding out about that. But at the moment, I don't have an exact answer for your question. But I know it is a big enterprise. That much I can tell. It's a very big enterprise, because you walk into any lawyer's office or other doctor's office or anything, or lawyers especially, a lot of things they need to be translated. And when the court approaches institutions like CIL, we do it for free because we are government of India. But if you're going to go to a commercial institution, then you have to pay. So there are things like you pay for the document, number of pages or the number of words in different sense, different way they negotiate. It's also a business. So it's also a very growing business. Yeah.
Ivana, I'm quite certain that the European model could learn a lot from the Indian model. I learned that your approach is very pragmatic, very tolerant, very respectful. In the European system, every document has to be translated from every language to every language. This means you have 504 combinations, and this costs you €1 billion per year. But my question with this pragmatism would be, I understand that there is no definition of several items of the linguistic politics. My question would be whether this tolerant, this respectful position towards language does have the result of the surviving of endangered languages. In other words, are there still languages dying in India?
Yes, because if you look into the UNESCO records, we have 197 languages that are endangered in India, as per their 2010 survey. And we have many of these languages, if you see, some of them have very few speakers, but again, numerical strength cannot be the criterion even for endangerment in India, because some languages have been, with even for more than 1 million or 2 million people also have been put as endangered in the list, because the language is not transmitted to the younger generation. There are other reasons for language endangerment, or there is no literature. Language exists only in the form of oral tradition, and it's not written down. So not writing down is another problem, right? So there are many languages which are dying. So that means the languages which have only oral traditions, it's important for us to document them, then make them translated into other languages so that people also understand what is going on. It's very important. Many languages are dying. So we are afraid we will lose quite a bit, because they are all moving to the language of the dominant region. Yeah? Any other? Yes?
Is it the case of Sanskrit?
Is it the sign?
Sanskrit is dying.
I couldn't hear you properly.
The language, Sanskrit.
Transcreation.
Sanskrit.
Sanskrit. Oh, sorry, because of the mask I could not. Yeah. See, Sanskrit is spoken by a few people still in India. There are a few people who still speak. What does this mean?
Yes.
So, I had in my slides when I gave the picture. Can we go up faster? People will be tired. I don't want. So there are a few people who still speak the language, but it is not. They are claimed as mother tongue. That is, Sanskrit is their mother tongue. I wouldn't say it is a dead language, though many people say. Like you see Hebrew, people revived the language. In fact, I'm going to talk about such things at IPOL. So we are having a program there. Here, Sanskrit. So there are 24,821 people who have claimed Sanskrit as their mother tongue. So you cannot claim it as a dead language. It may be a language which is dormant in that sense. Not many people use it anymore. There are some villages who still speak only Sanskrit. Yeah. Yes?
Could you give examples of unwritten languages?
I work on one of them called Lingam. It's a language spoken in Northeast India. There are many languages, like there are languages from Austroasiatic family or Tibeto-Burman family, or even in South India, many languages like Beta Kuruba is one example. I'll write the names for you since it's getting late for you. Lingam is one I am working on. CIIT have got a project. The second one I put here, Lingam is a language, is an Austroasiatic language. This Beta Kuruba is a Dravidian language. There are many languages from different families. So this Lingam is spoken in Northeast India by some indigenous people who use Kasi, the dominant language of the region. So we are helping them to write down their language using Roman script. Because Roman script is, most of the languages in Northeast India use Roman script. But Beta Kuruba spoken in near Mysore, here it's a Dravidian language. It's not possible or easy to give them one script. This language is spoken in 3 places, 3 states. Tamil Nadu, where Tamil is the dominant language. Kerala, where Malayalam is the dominant language. And Karnataka, Kannada. So when we talked with the community, they did not agree for one script. They said, give us 3 scripts. Write our language in all the 3 scripts so that the people living in the respective states, they learn it in that particular script. So they are not ready. And it's not possible to just give a script to your language. The sounds are not like sound to grapheme one-to-one translation when we talk about translation, because there also problems are there. It's not easy. But then they are not written down. You have to write down, first you have to write them down, get the literature, then translate. It's a long process when it comes to indigenous languages. But someone has to do. Yes?
Vou falar em português. Ela vai fazer uma palestra sobre desenvolvimento de escritas na segunda-feira, às 11 horas, no IPOL, das 11 ao meio-dia. Né? Então, quero convidar vocês também. A gente pode transmitir online. Lá não cabe tanta gente, mas cabe um pouco de gente.
I think I understood what she's saying even without knowing Portuguese. She's going to say, inviting people for my online talk, which is on Monday, right?
Estão todos convidados.
Ah.
Você fala em inglês?
Yes, she's just inviting.
Yeah, I translated it. That's what I said, right? That she's inviting people for my
Uma
talk
característica
on this.
interessante é que nessa palestra dela foi feita a convite do Museu Nacional, porque vão participar os alunos do mestrado em Linguística e Línguas Indígenas do Museu Nacional, coordenado pela professora Marci Filete, que é aqui foi aqui da nossa instituição, e agora é professora lá do Museu Nacional. Então, vamos ter alunos de pelo menos uns 15 povos indígenas brasileiros participando da palestra. Que vai ter um tradutor fantástico, um tradutor oficial, juramentado, euzinho.
So any other question? Yeah?
One more question? Alguém gostaria de fazer uma pergunta? If not, I want to thank you very much for your confidence.
Thank you so much, muito obrigada again. So I really appreciate your patience for being here for 2 full hours. Time flew like an arrow. So thank you so much. It was lovely interacting with you and for all the wonderful questions. I believe we will, since we have common interest, we will take up some work together. We will are discussing something, and maybe we will see what we can do together. CIL and two institutions, of course, here, Ski and then Nepal. Thank you once again. I also would like to place on record, like, my stay and my visit to Brazil would not have been possible without the support of Ski.
Yes.
And so that way, my special thanks to Professor Andrea and Professor Gelman, because I was invited to Brasilia for a congress, and for some reasons which cannot be disclosed here, my travel was a little bit shaky, I would say. Then I was, but they were very kind enough to sponsor my trip. So, and also make it possible for me to deliver lectures in other places. So this is going to be a very, very important and unforgettable trip for me. And from the bottom of my heart, I sincerely thank you for that. And it was really wonderful being in Brazil and learning so many things about the way you are, the way you speak, and what are the different cultural and linguistic similarities we have among us, and the variations, of course. Looking forward for a beautiful cooperation with the institution. Thank you once again.